Disclaimer, this video is not a foraging guide, it's simply an insight into how I forage. Always make sure you are 100% confident in your plant or mushroom identification before consuming anything. This video isn't here to encourage you to forage straight away, but to inspire you to learn, research, and build your own knowledge safely.
Hello everyone, in this episode I'm leaving Danny De Vito behind at the campsite and heading out for a walk in nature. What am I up to? Well, instead of voiceover Danny telling you, Danny on the walk can. Right guys, I'm just going for a little stroll. I say little stroll, but about 7, 8, 9 miles, something like that. But yeah, heading to a place called Shell Island. But I thought on the way I'm going to pick up any sort of potentially forageable stuff, because just to go show you like how much is actually out there, whether it be mushroom, whether it be something in the hedgerow, you know, I'll show you along the way just to see. So there's going to be a lot of stopping, but yeah, we'll crack on. At the time of recording, it was peak mushroom season in the UK. I barely stepped out of the campsite and the forest floor is already throwing treasures at me. And today I've stumbled across a few members of the bolete family. These are the mushrooms with the spongy underside instead of gills. Now there's a really handy rule of thumb I use when I'm out foraging, the red or blue method. It's not a full ID guide, but it's a great safety filter. If a bolete has any red on it, or if you cut it or bruise it and the flesh stains blue, just leave it where it is. Those traits show up in the species that include the toxic ones. You'll miss out on a couple of perfectly edible boletes using this method, but you'll also avoid every single dodgy one. And when you're foraging on the move, that's a trade I'm happy to make. This is wood sorrel, a tiny plant you'll spot in shaded, mossy woodland if you slow down and actually look. The leaves are the giveaway, 3 little heart-shaped leaflets sitting on a thin, delicate stem. And the taste? That's the fun part. It's sharp, bright, lemony, almost like apple peel. Perfect for a quick nibble. Simple, refreshing and easy to ID. This one here is Broadleaf plantain. Not really something you forage to eat, but it's one of the handiest wild plants you can learn. You'll find it almost everywhere. Footpaths, grassy tracks, car parks, campsites, anywhere the ground gets trampled. It actually loves compacted soil. The leaves are the giveaway. Broad, oval, with these strong parallel veins running from base to tip. If you tug on one, it's got that stringy, almost celery-like pull to it. Now here's the cool bit. If you crush or rub the leaves, release a natural juice, and that juice has soothing anti-itch properties. People have used these for centuries on stinging nettle rashes, mosquito bites, midges, even minor skin irritations. It's not exactly a medical treatment, but as a quick trailside fix, it generally helps take the edge off. That's thanks to compounds like orcubine and allantoin, which are known for their calming, skin-soothing effects. So no, it's not a wild snack, but broadleaf plantain is one of those plants that earns its keep the moment something decides to sting you. This little beauty is the wood hedgehog mushroom, and it's honestly one of my favourites. You'll find it in mixed woodland, usually grown in small groups on the forest floor. The ID feature is brilliant. Instead of gills, flip it over and you'll see tiny soft spines, like a little hedgehog, which is where it gets its name. That alone makes it one of the easiest wild mushrooms to recognise safely. Flavour wise, it's nutty, mild and slightly sweet, and it holds on to its texture when cooked. Simple to ID, lovely to eat. An apple. Nothing crazy or mysterious here, just a proper classic. I came across this little apple tree on the walk, picked one straight off the branch, and honestly, as long as you get a sweet apple as opposed to a cooking apple or a small crab apple, you're sorted with a nice snack for your walk. Sweet, crisp, does the job. Me and apples have a good relationship. I make cider out of them, so whenever I find a tree like this, it reminds me of what I've got fermenting at home, or the next big harvest. Simple, fresh, can't really go wrong with an apple. This plant here is Himalayan honeysuckle, sometimes called pheasant berry. You'll spot it in hedgerows, woodland edges and old gardens, usually where there's ground that's been disturbed. The idea is pretty striking, those drooping clusters of purple-red bracts with little dark berries hanging underneath. It looks almost ornamental, because it basically is. Now the berries can be eaten when they're fully ripe. They've got this odd caramel toffee flavour people always talk about, but the ripeness window is tiny, and the plant isn't native, so I treat it more as a fun find than a foraging target. Still, it's a gorgeous plant to come across on a walk. Well hey, look what we've got here. Common sorrel, a proper classic in the foraging world. You'll find it in meadows, grassy paths, field edges, anywhere the soil is a bit open and sunny. The leaves are long and arrow shaped with those little backward pointing lobes at the base. That's the key ID feature. Give it a nibble and you'll get that sharp lemony tang straight away. Again, similar to apple peel. Great in salads, great as a trailside pick-me-up, and super easy to recognise once you've seen it a couple of times. These bright red beauties are rosehips, the fruit of the wild roses. Now, I've cheated a bit here and added extra footage, as I really wanted to give rosehips a worthy mention. So rosehips are not really something you eat straight off the bush, but once you process them and get rid of those infamous itchy seeds, you can make all sorts. Syrups, teas, jams, even a proper winter vitamin boost. They're packed with vitamin C, which is why people have used them for centuries as a cold weather pick-me-up. And if you grew up in the UK, you'll know the other side of rosehips. Those seeds inside were basically school bullies' itching powder. Every kid knew someone who got ambushed with a handful down their back. So yeah, not a trailside snack, but rosehips are one of those wild ingredients that really shine once you treat them right. A quick heads up if you're foraging anywhere near rivers, streams or lakes. A surprising number of UK's most toxic and even deadly plants love wet ground. So you've got to stay switched on, take your time, and if you're not sure, leave it be. The best foragers are the cautious ones. These are sloes, the fruit of the blackthorn. Super sharp, super sour, not one to eat raw, but try one if you dare. They're perfect for things like sloe gin. This little plant is pineapple weed. You see the best of it in summer. Hot paths, dusty tracks, the edges of car parks, that's its usual vibe. But somehow, I've still managed to find a few hanging on. The ID's easy. Small yellow cone-shaped flower heads, no petals, and when you crush them, they smell exactly like pineapple. Not my favourite trailside nibble, but great steeped in hot water. This one is yarrow, a really common plant you'll see in meadows, field edges and roadsides across the UK. It's easy to spot once you know it. Those feathery, fern-like leaves are the giveaway, and in summer it puts out flat-topped clusters of tiny white flowers that look like miniature daisies. It's been used traditionally for all sorts, from first aid uses to herbal teas, but for me, it's just one of those plants that's nice to recognise as you wander. Light, delicate, and everywhere once your eyes tune in. This is the narrow causeway that leads to Shell Island, and it's a wild little stretch of road. Cars can only cross when the tide drops, and at high tide, the whole thing disappears under the water. People literally sit and wait for the sea to pull back before they can drive over. I didn't bother with all of that. I took the footpath, weaving along the edge while the tide was still high. Much quieter, and a lot more fun than queuing with the cars. But it was windy. Once I arrived at Shell Island, I had a refreshing pint and began to head back in the direction of the campsite. still keeping my eye out for anything to forage. And would you believe it, I came across some marsh samphire, a proper coastal treat. You'll find it in salt marshes, mud flats and tidal estuaries, growing right in the intertidal zone where it's regularly covered by seawater. The idea is simple, it's leafless, bright green, succulent, made of little jointed segments, almost like mini sea asparagus. Crunchy, salty and full of fresh seaside flavour. It's brilliant lightly steamed or tossed in a pan. Just don't add salt, it's got plenty of its own. Oh, looky here! We found some golden chanterelles. You'll spot them by that rich golden colour, the wavy funnel-shaped cap, and those false gills underneath. Soft, forked ridges that run right down the stem. They've got this gorgeous apricot aroma, and the flavour is earthy, fruity, and properly gourmet. Golden chanterelles are always a top find in the woods, and I'm taking these ones back with me. I got back to the van and cooked up some pasta, halloumi and those gorgeous golden chanterelles. Exactly what I needed after a full day of walking. What I didn't need was the rain. Yeah, it came down pretty hard. Not the gentle pitter-patter that usually sends me to sleep. More like the sky emptying a bucket over the van. Anyway, thanks for watching folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did and subscribe for more adventures.